All right, we are starting the How to Draw Ponies panel. Welcome. We are MLP Drawing School, part of the subreddit MLP Drawing School.
I am Grenader, the lead critic for about 2 years now.
He draws large hooves.
Hooves.
My name is View Rastiper, just call me View. I have been a moderator of the MLP Drawing School for a while now, and I'm a professional artist.
My name is Bob Dude Zero. The only thing you really need to know about me is that I draw a lot of Sweetie Belle. That's really about it. I'm very two-dimensional.
No Scoodaloos.
No Scoodaloos. Oh, I draw a lot of Batman. Yes.
I'm Atosh. I have no claim to fame other than the fact that I'm part of the subreddit.
He's been a part of it for a while. We love you. He sells himself short. He does.
I'm Living Dead. I've just been a long-time member of the subreddit.
And he is our favorite zombie.
Don't forget former moderator.
All right, this will be a fairly open panel, so if anybody has questions at any time, don't hesitate to raise your hand and we'll make my guy run to you. We've got one in the middle right now.
No fun.
We're hoping to keep...
What?
One extra pencil right up here.
Pencils. Oh, yes. We had some. We already passed
The
those out.
pencils have either run out or one will be handed to you magically. Either way.
Yes.
I see you're using Sign. Do you have any recommended programs that
Right here.
Mac users?
For Mac users, I do recommend Adobe Photoshop.
Photoshop is like, I would recommend something else.
Yeah, I
but
think
he'd
he's
strangle
handing
me
some
up
out.
here.
He likes Sketchbook Pro. I don't recommend that.
Well, Photoshop, and it's the industry standard as it is. So especially if you want to take art and keep going with it and going with it and going with it, like you should know the industry standard, and a lot of people or a lot of companies will only take Photoshop. So it's take Photoshop.
And then we're going to start with the basics.
Yes,
We're keeping it casual, but not that casual.
in the front. Very front. Luna.
Yes, you.
I believe so.
I think that's what that camera is for.
I think the camera is off.
Hello,
So I
camera.
don't know.
We should get the camera on then.
So for now, hold questions. We're going to go over some of the basics. So when you think of drawing a pony, you think of ponies, and you think, okay, I'm just going to draw this. I have no idea what's going on, and you have a hard time, and you make a big mess. And big messes aren't bad, but the very first thing you need to get is a reference. So we pulled up a nice, happy little Twilight here. And she's going to be our reference. So using this as a reference, we're going to do something of copy. And first things first, we do placement stuff. And placement stuff means just a circle for the head, circle for the chest, circle for the rump, lines for legs, stuff like that. A little line here saying there's eyes around here somewhere. You notice how much of a mess this is. This is a big, ugly mess. But the more you draw, the more specific you can get. And you have to look at your reference and say, okay, maybe the neck is a little long here. She is now a corn, so she gets a special neck. And we come back here with the hair a little bit. And you can measure and compare. So we see the tip of the ear to the back of the rump is a very sharp angle. So we really don't have that much space back there.
Keep your undersketches messy, but at least vaguely accurate, so that you can keep building on them.
Yeah, your undersketches are for correction. You make a mistake, you make a big mess, and then you correct it. And that's
Yeah, I mean,
how-
like one of the big rules of art is to start generic and then refine and refine and refine and refine, and that already starts just in your sketch alone.
Don't start with the final lines. That's the biggest mistake I see a lot of people make.
Yeah, your first lines should never be these neat, clean, happy little lines. Those are the last lines. Your last lines are your happiest.
That was not a Bob Ross reference.
All right, so we get something that looks more and more like a pony the more we go. And we're using a reference, and when you're using a reference so specifically as this, we're making a copy.
Yeah, that's another thing. We use using a reference very, very strictly. a thing that most people will do is they'll bring up a ton of references. Like some beginner artists think that references are like cheating or something. Like, oh, I can't look at something and draw it, then it's not out of my mind or whatever. That's not true at all.
No.
Every artist uses references. They're pretty much cornerstone. Like, have you ever thought about it? Like, do you really know how to draw somebody's shoes? How often do you look at somebody's shoes? You
How
don't
often
really.
do you look at a man's shoe?
I mean, I don't know. I like shoes. Shoes are pretty
Now,
cool.
one thing, tracing, no.
Yeah, tracing is a no.
Tracing is, unless you're really, really trying to figure out how that curve goes, and you're like, oh, maybe it's out. Oh, it goes out like that, and then you delete that because that's bad.
Hide it.
So, all right.
Oh, but yeah, as I was saying, like with a whole bunch of references, you're only really using them as a guide. Keeping them strict like this it's great for learning some of the few basic steps. Like
It helps with
figuring out,
proportions,
like,
it helps with anatomy, it helps with figuring out, oh, there really isn't that much space between the legs there. There's no negative space.
yeah, it's for like comparing and learning and all that good stuff. But then eventually, if you're trying to get some like unique poses and all that kind of good stuff, amass a whole bunch of references, but use them all as just guides, not as something to strictly like really go off of.
Now, something I do want to say is when you draw, you want to draw large. Because the larger you draw, the more obvious your own mistakes will be to you, and the more workroom you have. If you try to draw a tiny little leg and then erase it, and then you try to draw another little leg there, you won't have room to make something new.
Listen to that. I draw it like thumbnail size, and it's never
It's
good.
Okay, so you can see where I'm going along with this, kind of copying the reference. There are other ways to use references. So let's use this reference for something else. Let's use it for proportions. We're going to draw from the front. So we have a head here, and let's say, oh, maybe the head's a little smaller. So we'll draw the neck here, and the neck's about that tall. We're just looking back and forth, and that's one of the important things about using a reference is you may not be copying it, but you're using it as a guide. It's very helpful as a guide. Always, 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 always use references. And they really help you. And you don't just need to use screenshots either. It can really help you to use other artists, to look at real life, real horses, to learn a little bit of anatomy, and take small bite-sized chunks of what you want to learn. You don't have to do it all at once. And so we look back and forth and see that the tail comes very far up. Eye swooshes.
You should tell them about swooshing.
I should tell them about swooshing. Okay, there are many ways to make a line. One of the ways that a lot of people do in the beginning is they slowly kind of scratch it out.
That's what I do.
To make this
It's
line
bad.
is bad, yes. Because then your line, I'm trying to exaggerate here, your line has all sorts of little bumps into it, and it just doesn't look nice. And it's kind of slow. Trying to do it all in one go, one curve in one go, and maybe another curve down here, and another go, is called swooshing. And this is impossible in Photoshop, just because of the nature of Photoshop, but it works in Paint Tool Sci, it can work in some other programs. Corel Painter works very well. And in real life, it works great. Now, one of the things about swooshing is you're trying to draw with your whole arm. You see I'm moving my shoulder here. And you don't want to just draw with your wrist, because if you do that, you have very little control. And it's really hard to get used to drawing your arm, but the more you do it, the more control you'll have over your lines and your line work.
Now, who is completely lost?
Yay!
We are doing a bad job.
Okay, we're going to open it up to questions more here. So go ahead and raise your hands. Do you have any questions?
All right, we got Luna's best pony up at the front here. We get the,
Yes. I missed you in the start, we'll get you now. Oh no, they're invading.
Close the mirror pool.
How can you use reference if you're drawing like an OC? Like if you're drawing a long canon character, how can you use reference for that?
How do you use references for an OC character?
For OC characters, see, with references, you aren't doing every specific part. So let's pull up Silver Spoon here.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to draw Silver Spoon. She's very sad. But so you want to draw another filly. You use it for proportions. You're saying, okay, we have this very large head and this chest here. Let's say your OC has spiky hair. So you can pull up a reference for spiky hair. You can pull up, say, Spitfire or something. So, and then do something similar to that. And maybe put a swoosh on the end there. And you like that.
This is where multiple references really comes in handy. If you have a pose in mind you want, maybe there's a reference for that, you can take that. Maybe the hairstyle comes from a completely different pony. Grab a reference of that, mix them together, and really try to take from as many references as you can to get what you want.
Yeah, it's like I was saying, you don't need to be super strict about them. You can use references for anything as long as it helps you visualize what you want to draw, what you want to put down on the paper, program, whatever.
Yeah, references are a guide, they're not a blueprint. They're something to help you, but they're not something to stick so stubbornly to that you're not doing your own stuff.
Anyone else?
Questions?
I did see you first. Pink shirt up here. Thank you for running around.
Do you have any tips for bath ponies?
Bat ponies. That one is actually very, very similar to regular ponies. The body shape up to the head, very similar. But when you get to the wings, look, I suggest grabbing a reference of a real life bat. You can easily get the general shape of their wings, and then you can look at the show and see how they've styled that. Real life is probably one of the best references you can ever get.
It is the best reference. But also, if you're having difficulty with the real life stuff, you can go back to cartoon stuff or other artists. There are some wonderful interpretations of bat ponies out there.
It's both wings and ears, isn't it?
It's wings, ears, and you can play with the hair too. They have a bit of spike in the hair.
Oh yeah, the fang. Yes. And this is the craziest OC I think I've ever seen you draw.
This is the only OC I think you've ever seen me draw.
I've seen some OCs.
Tail.
The
It's only
tail?
a tail.
No,
His
he shaved
OC
it.
doesn't have a tail, okay?
He
It doesn't
shaved
fit
it.
one.
My OC doesn't have a tail because I don't have an OC.
Right there.
I'm a terrible person.
Girl up front, right next to Shining, right behind him. Back one row, back, her. Yes, you got it.
Worst other sketch I've ever done.
Okay, so I was wondering if you have any tips for like drawing like curls.
Curls!
Volume.
Let's go with Rarity's hair. Now, normally I would pull up a reference here, but we don't have access to the internet, so we're all sad. So we're going to start drawing a little Rarity here. And I'm going to keep the face very simple, but we're going to go into the hair. And it goes round and round, and under and round, and round and round. And how the heck did I do that? So the issue is, you have to figure out where the over is, where the under is, and basically you have to treat things like they're three-dimensional objects. So here I'm going to draw a really, really simple cylinder. And that's what you start with an object like Rarity's hair or something that curls, is you start with a simple three-dimensional object, a cylinder, a sphere, cubes, boxes.
Never
Same
draw
thing.
never draw a circle. Never draw a circle.
Yeah,
Always
you're
draw
not
a
just drawing
sphere.
a circle, you're drawing a sphere, and it's kind of a mental trick. You have to trick yourself into thinking you're drawing a sphere because it is a two-dimensional surface, but you're pretending it's three-dimensional. You're tricking other people into thinking it's three-dimensional.
And this whole thing is actually one big art concept called volumes. Pretty much self-explanatory there. It's just giving everything a depth, and I mean everything a depth. Personally, I think one of the biggest differences between like a beginner's work and something that looks like something that you would like actually like, I don't know, buy it like a vending table or anything, is whether or not it has depth, if something jumps off the table at you. And you're gonna do a little bit right now?
No.
Oh, okay. What I'm going to do here is draw a very simple sphere. And we'll see, I'll start with the dark, and I started way too dark. You shouldn't start with that dark. Don't do as I do, do as I say.
Why are we
I'm a terrible person. Oh, color's fun.
All right.
So we got a sphere here, and that was a quick sphere. You see how quick that was? That was really quick. That's part of working dark to light. If you work dark to light, things become a little easier. Shadows tend to hide, so it's a lot easier to find where the lights are than to find where every little dark is. So if you start with a darker value and work your lights in on top of that, you get something that's a little more believable.
I think we need to backpedal a little bit.
My apologies.
He gets carried away.
Yes.
We can talk about art for hours.
I saw you way back there raising your hand a while. The black coat with the crosses on it. Yes.
Ta-da. And when you're drawing a pony head or something, you can start with this. Start with a simple object like a sphere, and then you can modify it. So I'm going to put a muzzle on it. Aha.
Once we get this question.
The question?
Yes. I think.
I see a lot of people usually drawing ponies on the side. I was wondering, how do you get the proportions right when you draw a front view pony?
That comes in the undersketch. Those initial 3 circles we drew, or he drew, the head circle, that is what rotates, and when you draw the sphere, that's how you get the different angles. The side view is the most common one. It's the easiest to draw right off the bat. But instead, when you make it a sphere, you can rotate that, draw a center line for the face. And the 2 circles for the bottom, those just start to overlap.
So your muzzle will move as you rotate the pony.
Right.
Yeah, you really decide a lot of the anatomy and the proportion in your undersketch. And I mean, you can undersketch as much as you want. You can do an action line to skeleton to body marks to line work. I mean, what you're doing is you're trying to just build more and more and more and more and more until you finally get a finished piece.
One of the wonderful things about digital is you have layers. So you can make a giant ugly mess, lower the opacity, make a new layer, and clean up your ugly mess. Unfortunately, with traditional, it's not that easy, but you still can sketch a little lighter. One of the big hints with sketching lighter in traditional is to hold the pen or pencil towards the back of it, and so you're not putting as much weight onto the paper. And you kind of want to, how do I describe this? I'm going to draw what I'm doing, somebody talk.
Sure thing. What are you doing?
I am drawing how to hold the pencil.
Oh, okay.
All right. What do you want to talk about?
Let's field another question.
One other thing I was saying with the different poses, don't be afraid of overlap. That is the biggest thing people mess up with making new poses. They try to stretch out the pony as much as possible to make sure all the shapes are there. If you're overlapping, that's not a problem.
And these aren't so much mistakes as much as something everybody does in the beginning. We all have these little habits that our brain says, oh, this makes it easier, but it doesn't.
Are they happy little habits?
Now let's start to bring the questions this way. We got 2 here. Let's do 2 in the center now and then 2 over there. So raise your hands in the center if you have questions.
The guy in the brony cap. I've had it up for a while.
Okay, a lot of people have
What if you're having a really
Are we mic running here?
Where's the mic running to?
He's there. Look for the rarity hat and we know where it is.
What if you're having a really hard time drawing the lower half?
If you're having a hard time drawing any part of it, references. But that's a simple answer, but it doesn't tell you anything.
Cylinder.
One of the things in art is that you go general to specific. So a lot of people like to draw the whole face first and then move on to other things, but that makes it harder to draw everything later because you're drawing it to the face. You have to make sure it's exactly the same as that face. If you're going general to specific, which is basically, all these circles and lines and the ugly stuff, the mess. Making a mess is a wonderful, wonderful thing in art because then you have a beginning. And once you have this beginning, you can correct it. Because it's a mess, you don't have to move the whole head, you can just move the ugly little circle.
And one other tip for the body, 2 circles. The front one's a little bit smaller and they're barely overlapping. And when you rotate that, it's a nice simple shape to work with and you can go from there. Now, next question. Is that Nightmare Moon or Luna? I can't see. You. Yes. Okay.
My eraser disappeared.
You don't deserve an eraser.
I make mistakes too. I know.
Everyone makes mistakes. If you're making mistakes, you're doing a good job in art. It's a good thing to say, oh, this wasn't wrong, and you can fix it.
How would you do a body type for Luna per se? I guess references maybe?
References is the answer to everything.
Of course, references, but their circles are a little different. They have a larger chest, smaller rump, and one of the keys with ponies is the back legs tend to kick back a lot, meaning the hoof is actually further back than the rear. So you have a whole bunch of dynamism with that, basically. It makes her look like she's active, she's doing something. One of the instinctual things that we do when we're drawing and not using a reference is to draw the legs straight up and down. And that looks a little static. It doesn't look like the pony's moving or doing anything or is emoting. And you want to emphasize emotion when you're drawing because you're really exaggerating with art. You're hitting people over the head with a hammer of obvious intention. So that's art.
Yes. And one here, and then the woman in white after that. And back. Yes. Yes.
Well, it's a guide, it's a foundation. The most important thing about the ugly shape is to realize that it's not going to be what your final product looks like. It's just there so that it helps you to, it allows you to make mistakes, so that you can make a mistake and then fix it.
If you have something down on the paper, it will be infinitely easier to, instead of coming up with something new, to correct it.
Yeah. You see these professional artists and they whip out these entire things without doing an undersketch. And you're like, I want to do that. They know how to do it because they've done the undersketch so many times, so many hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times, that it's in their head. And without that experience, it's very, very difficult to do that. And it becomes very taxing on yourself, on your own ego, and on everything, to expect yourself to be just as good as those professionals from the start.
And I think we've been, like, we push references really hard because references are actually very important, but I think we might push it to the point that it's like, eventually you do get good at this.
Yeah, eventually. It's one of those things, the more you use references, the less you'll need to use references.
Yeah.
So you keep using references.
If you think you won't be able to draw this stuff out of your head, you will be able to.
Yeah, I can only draw this because of all the times that I've looked at screenshots and drawn screenshots and drawn other artists' stuff.
Yeah. What we're talking about is like, just like starting and like really getting it into your head. But then even then, using references will help you.
Yeah, if you want to learn more about emotion, you go to an artist who does a lot of emotive stuff, or you look at pictures of people or horses or whatever, stuff that looks interesting to you. There's always a deeper level to go.
This mess that we are doing up here, that is nowhere near the final thing. So much refinement goes into this sketch that you will get something really good looking when you're done. I guarantee you. You will love what you finish. Love your art.
Make bad art, make good art. Love what you make.
Art every day. Next question, yes, and you had your hand up. White shirt.
You can get the one next to Mr. Reynolds.
Positioning the tail.
Do you have any tips for positioning the tail when you move it, when you move the pony to a 3/4 view and then a front view or a back view?
Yes, I actually have a few good ones. Can I actually talk on this one?
Go for it, Dave.
I mean, I want it. I get too quiet now. Anyway, the one thing you want to remember with the tail, it's big and poofy. You will see it anywhere on this pony unless they shaved it.
Used OC earlier.
And think of it as a giant cylinder or a giant cone at first. Starts off very small at the tip and widens out until the bottom. And then finally comes to a nice point at the end again.
I think my biggest trick to that kind of thing, and just positioning everything in general, is really understanding volumes like we were saying earlier, because once you understand what the depth has and like where it will interact with your other depths, you can kind of position it basically anywhere you want to. If you know what the depths are and how it interacts with everything else, then like you can put it just about everywhere.
And to learn this, references, but also it's important to just draw it a few times. If you're having trouble with the tail, pull out whatever references you want to use and draw a few dozen tails. And don't worry about the rest of the pony.
If you've learned something, then good work, you did it. You know, it does not need to be an incredible work of art. If you've learned something and you've gotten something out of it, then congratulations, you've just made art.
Yes.
Yeah. And if that was too complicated, short version, a little shorter, and the front view, it's very wide, and you can see it on the sides, or just one side. 3/4 view, it's slightly behind the legs. Side view, you can see the whole thing.
I found that eventually.
But that's kind of the cheating version of doing it. Volumes is a nice way to do it.
And if you have to cheat to learn, cheat to learn. I mean, figure out those little things that help you.
Oh, and then like, as you get to know those kinds of things, and you can keep pushing them further and further and further and further. Like action lines would probably be like my next step, and like Lil Funk Man knows.
We aren't on those yet.
Somebody
action lines are.
Stop.
That's under sketch.
We can talk about that.
We will. One more question though. On this
love
side, I don't know who had their hand up.
Somebody?
Who is next? You?
In the hat.
Okay. In the hat. That's easy.
Different programs have different strengths. Photoshop is not good at line work. That's just one of those things. It is very good at active, messy line work, if you're into that, but not very many people like that. The pen tool is a very, how do I put this, strict, do this kind of method tool that kind of slows down your process. A lot of professional artists either use Paint Tool Sai or Corel Painter for their line work, so that's what I recommend.
Some people don't use line work.
Some people go straight to painting when they sketch, and they're fancy.
I personally despise line work, so I try my best to skip line work. I fail.
Find what your art does for you. It's fun.
It's tough to get all these questions. Who does have a question right now? Raise your hand. We cannot get all these people in there.
We were not going to have time for everybody, but we're going to try to get
Back to this side, not that guy.
It's okay.
Okay, you can say fun once, no one else. What have I unleashed?
Fun!
You unleashed fun.
Good. Now, who is still completely lost after she asks her question?
How do you draw a Spike?
How do you draw Spike?
We don't. Spike's not a pony.
Spike is best pony.
I will fight you.
You're gonna draw Spike the exact same way you're gonna draw just about every cartoon ever, which is figuring out the shapes that make them up, and then you just kind of undersketch them out, guide them out, use your references, and just kind of put the pieces together.
You see, this looks horrible because I'm not using references.
I will admit, Spike is definitely one of the tougher characters in MLP to draw because he has the cheeks, the little poofy cheeks that are just evil.
They're adorable.
Adorable, yes, but evil.
For every cartoon character ever, if you look at their character for long enough, you can start to kind of analyze their shapes that build them up, because a lot of animators and stuff like that, I feel like, probably just build their characters out of shapes in general.
You want simple shapes to build your characters, and they do. So you get simple shapes to draw them.
And Spike is no different.
And I see someone with questions way in the back with the ears on. We had to give some love to the people in the back. Sorry. That doesn't mean we don't love all of you up front.
Yes, it does.
We just love them more.
No one should love grandparents. Oh. Except for me.
That's something I want to go over here
We're talking
after
about
this
trees.
question. But questions.
Yes.
Questions are very important. In art, ask questions. Don't make art in a vacuum. If you have questions, go to the subreddit, go to your friends, go to anybody. Ask the question.
I seriously think that one of the best ways to learn art is from other artists.
Yes.
Ask a lot of questions.
Be redundant. If you still don't understand, say, I don't get it. Help.
But don't expect positive reinforcement from other artists.
Okay, no, they will tell you to do work, and you're going to be like,
Question.
Oh, question,
Got a
yes.
question.
No, someone else has the mic, I'm sorry.
See, this is kind of hard to describe. I'm self-taught, and so a lot of these methods I see you guys using, it's very foreign to me. It's just like, how can I apply them, basically, being self-taught?
everybody starts with their own little doodles in their own little world.
I'm self-taught too, for instance. And
So am I.
Yeah, I've just learned things from other artists. Like I was just saying, you know.
Yeah, you find your communities, and we do have the subreddit MLP Drawing School, and we do have an IRC where we hang out all the time and just talk about art, and talk about art, and then talk about ponies, and then talk about random coding stuff, but it goes back to art.
But like seeing this kind of stuff that another artist is doing, try it. You know, if something looks interesting to you, like, oh hey, I could maybe take on that and give it a shot in my own little program, then do it.
Everybody starts from their own somewhere, and these foundations are difficult to get across, but they're not impossible. And I mean, it takes time. Everything takes time, and the more you've arted before, the quicker it'll be to absorb.
Why are you drawing Fluttershy?
Well done.
All right, more questions. 2 on that side already done. 2 in the center this time. I see a Big Mac in the back with a hand up. And then we're going to come forward after that.
All right, well, before the question, I'm going to go over the difference between a symbol and an object. Without using references, we think of objects as symbols. So we just draw this kind of ugly tree, and we have no idea what we're doing. But then the more we use references, the more we understand it, the more we can do something more accurate to what a tree is, even if it doesn't make as much sense to us while we're drawing. Question.
When do you know when a piece is done so you don't overwork the piece?
When you are tired of seeing it and you are crying.
But that's the beginning.
It's sad but true.
For me, it's just when I feel proud enough to just throw a little BD on there and then post it.
When it's 6 a.m. and I need sleep.
One of the common things one of the idioms that's in art is good art, well, not good art, all art. Art is never finished, merely abandoned. And some art, there's a funny story, there was a professional artist who took years and years to finish works. He sold one of his works, and then he broke into the house of the people he sold it to work on it more. So, you know.
Is that a story of your life?
Sometimes. I don't sell anything. It's sad.
That's a lot. You sell a lot.
And while you're going over that, get the next pink shirt. Yes.
So sometimes you don't know. Sometimes your friend has to say, it's done, let it done. Sometimes it's really easy to overwork work. Once it looks good, don't worry about it. If you're fiddling with the ear for half an hour, you're doing it wrong. Because it's not about the little specific things. It's much more about how it looks overall.
All right.
Is a request fine?
A what?
A request?
What's the request?
A codified spike.
You just had to, didn't you? He can do it. I'm not drawing, so yeah. All right. Since that wasn't a real question, right in the center, holding a plushie, it looks like. Yes, that is a plushie. And thank you again for running around for us.
Thank you, Mr. Staffman.
Everybody get Staffman.
Put the work in. Put the work in.
Who is still really, really lost?
That guy's pretty
You're
lost.
not. Stop.
He is enthusiastically lost.
Still, you had a drawing earlier. I want to see that. Bring it up. While he's getting his question.
Sorry for
Can
the
I draw your
pause.
OC? No.
I'm not used to it.
incapable of drawing.
You can keep this to learn. We are learning here. You learn from your
Remember, draw hard.
Hey, we have a question over here.
Yes.
Question.
So it seems my sketches are getting better and better, but when it comes to refining it on the art program, it seems to be going nowhere, and it's like I seem to be stuck to the curve tool a lot, and I don't know how I'm supposed to get to the next level because I've been on it for a couple of years.
Well, what step are you getting stuck on? Just from sketch to the next level?
I don't know. It just seems like with the curve tool, it doesn't.
Oh, the
seem
curve
to-
tool in Photoshop?
I'm kind of stuck to paint.net.
Ooh, I'm sorry.
That'll hurt, yeah.
There's a lot
Time
of
for an
programs
upgrade.
out there. There's a lot of free programs. There's a lot of very bad programs out there, and it's
Never
very
use
difficult.
them.
And it's very difficult for me to do this, but I have to recommend paint tool size or something like that. Paint tool size is only like $60.
Or
Your
free.
efficiency will be limited by the program that you use, unfortunately. Some tools are easier than others. Some tools are more intuitive. If you have to have a free program,
I'm not saying it. I'm not saying that program. You will kill me up here.
say the program.
Sketchbook Pro.
Use Sketchbook Pro.
It's free. It's easy to do line work, sketches, coloring. It's horrible. And I see a giant sunset shimmer there, and that is scaring me a little. So I will not take your question because of that. I'm just kidding.
Take the question.
I am evil, just so you all know. Good. Good. Everyone's
Builds
evil.
character.
How do you get better at proportion?
Tough practice.
Sketchbook Pro is the program that is free.
Yeah. Proportions. You figure them out. It's really tons of art,
References.
tons of art,
There
tons of
are
art, more art,
sheets
references,
online.
art.
Okay, I've seen so many just spreadsheets of people that have done like all the math about like how exactly the distance between the leg and the ear and like all this stuff. And I guarantee you, if you Google search it, you will find it. And it's if you really
And
need to
half
be
of
like
them contradict each other.
mathematical about it, that you can find that kind of thing.
That's
But-
show accurate ponies though.
Yeah, but like a lot of it is just practice and
Lots and lots of practice.
Lots of practice, lots of going back to the reference and saying, oh, the head is a little bigger than that. Oh, the neck is a little longer than that. Oh, correcting yourself. You make the mistakes, then you correct. It's fine.
You have no idea how many times I've erased this sketch.
Therapy.
Back there, Durfee, and then the man in the tie. Yeah, you.
Okay, so I'm really stuck with like line work, and I always do black and white, and for some reason, colors don't come naturally to me. Like, I just don't know how to color things.
Okay.
I've got a nice tip for this one.
Okay.
Grayscale. That is actually one of my biggest tips here. Start with grayscale to learn values. You want to start. After that, overlay layers and paint tool side. Easiest way to learn.
Or any
colors.
other painting program over there that's working the same
I
way.
didn't know that was in Photoshop.
Here's a coloring trick that's worked for me ever since I learned it.
Yesterday?
Okay, so you know how if you're doing line work on like a canvas, it'll be white, right? Color your canvas. If you want a piece to feel like a certain color, then paint the whole piece that color. And then you'll naturally want to, like, as you're filling things in and you're coloring stuff, your eye will want to make things look like, they're blending a little bit, or, there's a little bit of harmony.
This is the
If
use of
you're working
overlay.
on nothing but white, then things are going to be really bright. Your values are probably going to be, bright and all that good stuff.
This is basically using a ground to start things out. So you pick a color and you're like, let's just put that everywhere. I don't know where the bucket tool is.
It's at the very top.
So like if I wanted a piece to be like a really warm red, yellow, orange kind of color, but I wanted some oranges up in the top left corner and some yellows over in here, I build like a huge gradient of just brush tool everywhere and then just water tooling it all together. And then as I build my piece on top of it, those colors still kind of remain because I'm trying to keep the colors similar as I pick them.
So you have a ground and then you can work on top of it.
Experimentation is also a nice fun thing.
Layers are very important. Have many layers.
This is so much information.
Yes, there will be a lot of information. Fortunately, after this, we have a little workshop where you can come and ask us questions personally.
Or yell at us for how bad we've done.
And everybody's invited to just come and art with us.
Yeah.
And the man in the tie. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Man in tie. Okay.
How do you work with the eyes, particularly with that expressions and whatnot?
They know this one more than I do.
Expressions? Oh, I can't do expressions.
Almighty view.
Okay.
Master.
No, I do. I know how expressions work. I just can't do them.
All right.
References.
Okay, so when it comes down to a reference of the face and stuff like that, or not reference, an expression of the face and stuff like that, it's not an expression of the face. It's an expression of everything.
the whole body.
If you want fear, then you're gonna have to get the facial expression right, which is like, you know, tiny pupils and like whatever. But you're also gonna like a great effect is to make the hair stand up on end, or to make them kind of like extra stretchy, kind of like pushing something away. You know, you want body language too, in addition to just facial structure. And you can do that kind of thing around the whole piece too. Like not just like you can do reactions of other characters to another character or any of that to really build across an expression. But as far as like face stuff goes, that's just references, I guess.
Faces are references, and it's important to understand what your pony is doing. Do it yourself. If the eyes are really wide, open your eyes really wide. See what that happens to your eyebrows. Try to feel a little bit, felt it.
And hey, throw yourself in a mirror. Like yeah, put yourself in front of a mirror, and if you want an expression, do that expression, and reference yourself.
Or you find a roommate and say, "Be afraid." Okay. Okay.
Just put the knife down when you yell that.
Be happy, be sad. And you'll notice that their body changes a little too. When they're sad, you're all crumpled in on your
body language is equally as important.
When you're happy, you're out and emotive, and your arms are up, and you're
Now,
not the front has been waiting a while.
you have been waiting a while, I'm sorry. All right.
Where's our portable mic?
He died. Oh, he did? Oh. Right
Up
up here.
here in the front.
I thought we were
corner.
really starting to
Been very patient. Yes, Bert.
Do you have any advice on drawing griffins, and particularly in the wings?
To the wings. Corinne, you're
I didn't hear the whole question, sorry.
How do you draw griffins and wings?
Okay, griffins, show-style griffins have kind of short, stubby legs. Wings are their own thing entirely. For wings, it's very important to understand the anatomy of a wing. It's kind of like an arm in that you have a shoulder, you have how it comes out, you have the elbow, and then you have the hand, but the hand spreads into fingers, which become feathers eventually. So we have this ugly, ugly thing, which is our undersketch, for basically how the whole thing is put together later. So we kind of curve it under here, come out. And there are different kinds of feathers. You have the primary feathers, which are out towards the hand, and they're basically these fingers. So I'm going to draw some fingers. And you have small little feathers here towards the elbow, towards the top. And how did I learn this? Well, I looked at birds. I looked at a lot of birds, and I drew birds. And then I drew ponies with bird wings. And so you have more.
Now these are very detailed wings. If you're looking for show style wings,
look at the show.
A lot less detailed, but the general structure of the arm, the joints, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Except on ponies, those are kind of just
So generally with wings, you have the smaller feathers towards the top and the elbow area, and the larger feathers towards the bottom. That's not always the case, but that is a generalization.
the hood, yes.
Not in front.
Hoodie in the front, up here.
I think that's fine.
Yes, but did that explain wings?
Third row back.
See the vinyl in the
Yes, the vinyl. But to continue with the griffins though, their hands or talons, treat them like hands. They are basically hands, minus the thumb.
Hands are difficult in and of themselves. They're their own entire billion-year study.
And now we are ready for the next question. Sorry we didn't fully answer.
Do you guys have any tips on how to draw like back legs?
Back legs, yes.
Back. Wait, what?
Back legs.
Back legs.
With legs in general, you want to understand the joints and how they attach. This will help you with leg movement. This will help you with understanding the proportions and everything. Ponies have a knee, and in show, it's very, very high up. So let's just draw a leg here. Something exciting is going on outside.
They should come in here. It's more fun in here.
Okay, so we have a leg here.
Why did I say that?
It's the trigger word. You can't say a trigger warning.
This is school. There is no fun here.
One of the important things about back legs is that you'll notice that the hoof is way back here, even though the rump starts way up here. And this overall angle, if you get this from the beginning, your leg will look more active and your pony will look like it's doing something and balanced rather than standing there doing nothing. And the more active your pony looks, the more excited and involved your viewer will be, the more emotive it will seem, and the more will care about the situation. Now, okay, so we have the attachment point of the pelvis, the knee, the hock, and this bone sticks out a bit, and in show we have this very straight line for that area. And that's just how they stylize things. I mean, you can stylize it yourself. You can give the bone a little more depth to it, and maybe give it a little thing here, a crease. And however you want to do it at the end of the day. And the more you study anatomy, the more you study other artists, the more you'll find your own way. And that's the most important thing, is you study a variety of sources. You want to study screenshots, artists, real life, to find what makes you happy when you draw a pony.
Remember with legs in general, just very simple rule for pony in general is to bottleneck them. Hooves should be way bigger than what you actually attach to the body.
Yeah, it is, at its thinnest point, near the hock area, it's very thin.
This side wants some attention. They have more hands than anybody. Shining had up the longest, I think. Oh, then the guy behind him with the hat. With the
yes.
guy. Then the other guy with the hat. Yes, both of those guys with hats. Because hats are awesome.
Everybody needs a hat.
What is this, TF2?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm really interested in sort of your specific style of adding shadows as well as glare and sort of lighting effects. I've been using sort of a combination of line and then flat black with opacity and stuff like that. So I'd like to hear what the actual proper best method you think would be.
For shading?
Shading.
For shading and lighting effects.
For shading in general, dark to light. I always emphasize this everywhere I go, dark to light, dark to light, dark to light. Shadows tend to hide, as I said earlier. So we start with something very dark. We start with a darker hue blue, and colors have lightness and darkness. Yellow is very light, it seems very light. Blue seems very dark, that's how it is. And we're going to move that towards the green. And just kind of, what I do is I softly brush it in. And you don't have to do that. You can do a hard edge, you can do a soft edge, you can do what works for you for your own mark making, what looks nice. And there are more lights than people give credit for. There's not just one body tone, there are several body tones. So you're just going to get a little lighter and a little lighter. And with the specular, I like to kind of tint it towards the color of my light source. So let's say my light source, let's say my light source is green. And green is not a happy light source, but we'll do it anyway. When people are shaded in green, they look a little sick. And you don't want sick people. So shadows have several properties. One of them being where the shadow meets. Let's change the color of that so you can actually see the arrow. Where the shadow meets the main body color. And that's kind of a hard edge. And then you get darker towards the bottom where you're touching things. Because the closer the object is to whatever it's touching, the table or whatever, the less light can sneak in underneath. That's ambient light that gets in there.
And now we have completely lost everybody.
And now everybody's lost. Basic general things, dark to light.
Confused.
Yes, now the next question.
Any tips on how to make show accurate / realistic type of lightning?
Lightning?
Show style.
Thunderbolts and lightning. Very frightening.
This is basic show style lightning. It's what they use for Rainbow Dash's Cutie mark, what they've used for a couple sound effects. It's basically forward, down, forward, down, forward, down. You want to do one lightning first so that you can use the other one to kind of follow it and kind of be a little bit parallel and towards the point. So you want to start very thick in the out and towards the point. Realistic lightning is much more random and weird.
Goes back up a bit, comes back down.
And it can split, and it's neat. And it looks much better when you use white on top of black rather than the other way around. So I'm going to change that. It's beginning.
No fun in here.
Whoever's saying fun out there, stop. All right, or come in here. Come in here if you're saying fun now. Hey, crowd, come in here.
Fun. All right.
All right, or not.
So lightning is a bit jagged and all over the place. You can add a little glowy effect to it if you want. I believe in the front in the blue shirt.
Yep.
How do you draw the cutie mark on a pony's flank?
Cutie marks. Well, remember what we said earlier about spheres? This is one of those things. So I'm going to put a grid here. And you'll notice the grid kind of has a little balloon shape to it. And that's the roundness volume there. That's the volume that we're trying to imagine. So say we're doing Twilight's cutie mark. And Twilight's cutie mark is all sorts of complicated. If we try to draw it without doing any kind of undersketch or anything, we get something very, very ugly. And it's really easy to mess that up. But one of the easy ways to do it is we start with a long mark, we get the cross in there, and all of a sudden it looks very much like it, and we can just add little points to it. And so we're rounding it around this mesh that I've created. And if you want to draw the mesh. But you don't have to make it perfect. Again, mess is fine because this is an undersketch. This is what's underneath. It's helping you, guiding you for the future. And this is what I do. And we get a little more correct. Put the spikes in there. I can draw the other stars. I'm going to draw a little mess because they're very small stars, so it doesn't matter if they're correct. Because I can zoom out and then they look fine. Then you bring them close. The art looks fine from far enough away.
Now, one other thing with cutie marks, if you're asking about getting the color on there, there are layer options in Painttool Sci, Photoshop. And you don't have to worry so much about getting every single color right, every pixel right. It automatically adjusts it for the color underneath it.
One of the wonderful things about layers is that you can have this deplorable green, and then say we have a blue cutie mark on top of it.
I kind of like that green.
You're a deplorable person. And we say we want it to blend in a little bit, we can lower the opacity so that it kind of mixes with the fur and looks like it's more natural.
Now the question.
How do you proportion clothes properly, like with Rarity's dresses and stuff, they're all proportioned properly?
Again, we're going back to references. It sounds like it's redundant. Oh, just use references. Blah, blah,
Because
blah.
it's true, references everywhere it goes.
That's unfortunate, but it also really helps. References really help you to break things down into what their simplest shape is. A dress in MLP is this giant triangle that rides off the pony.
I think I'm actually going to make another reference to knowing volumes. Once you know them well enough, and you know what fabric is going to look like, fabric doesn't really have a very...
Yeah, the more you draw fabric, it's really interesting. The more you understand volumes.
It's just, basically just layer it over your shapes.
All right. We are not almost done, but a lot of questions still. Lightning them. Yes.
If you make a pony and you want to make it like out of twigs, then how can you do that?
Out of twigs.
Well, you start with the same basic undersketch. You say, okay, the head's over here, the chest is here, the rump is here, we have lines, they're doing something for legs. And then as you become more refined, you do more twig stuff and say, okay, twigs have this little thing to them, and they have this little thing to them. Maybe one of this thing. Uh-oh, I'm drawing a skeleton pony.
Close enough.
Zombie pony.
Next question. Sorry, we're trying to go as fast as we can.
How do you do if the pony is facing kind of forward but not completely forward, how do you do their nozzle?
Oh yes, muzzles. The show kind of cheats with muzzles. With the 3/4 view, we still have this kind of side muzzle. So each artist has their own interpretation of what the muzzle shape looks like, and that kind of front, but not really kind of thing. So say we have the eyes here, and a lot of artists do this kind of happy little round shape.
Nice little ball on the face.
It's a kind of a ball and kind of a cube. We have the top here, which is a little flat, and the front is a little bit of a curve, and then we have this nice smile, which is a very curvy spot.
Do you have any tips for people transitioning from traditional art to art with
draw with the tablet constantly. My tip is draw with a tablet constantly. Don't drop the pencil all the time. But whenever you're drawing at a computer, always just get used to the tablet and
will
try to sketch digitally.
You will be frustrated at first. There is
It takes a while.
a learning curve for figuring out
Whenever
how
you're
you like
switching
it.
to drawing in a new program or drawing with a new way, it takes a lot of time, and it's very frustrating because you can't do the same things you used to do, but once you get used to it,
I think we should
it
go on
does
to
work.
the next person.
No, how? We still got some time.
Do we?
We're just trying to get some
You
questions
said lightning
done.
round, and I was like, well,
Well,
okay.
it's lightning round, we have 5 minutes.
Yeah. Shiny.
I was just wondering if I were to try to draw something that doesn't really exist in the show universe, like let's say specifically I would draw like a sea pony, maybe I could have like, the sea pony reference in the previous generation, or like a reference of a picture of a fish. Are there any tips you could give, like stylistically, while making it look like it exists in that universe in tandem, like a real fish?
Well, the show has a whole bunch of little things that it does all over the place. You'll notice that the heads are very large and the eyes are very large. And so take from the basic proportions of what's there. You see Iron Will, and he's got this giant chest. And maybe for two-legged characters, we just have these big chests, tiny, tiny little legs. Rainbow Dash in the back.
We're just trying to get as many questions as we can here. I'm really sorry if we don't answer yours.
Can you please give me some advice on drawing stallions versus mares?
Stallions have a much larger muzzle in the front.
They have a box on the face instead of a little circle.
Yes, Stallions have this very large box on the face, and for Big Mac in particular, his kind of curves in a weird manner. And you don't have to draw it that way yourself if you don't want to, but it's how the show does it.
And then for the body, the chest is a lot bigger on the stallions. They have a lot more mass to the body. So the head looks a little smaller on a stallion.
I'm gonna give him some.
Why are you drawing Princess Big Mac?
Because he's happy.
Princess Big Mac is best. Who said it was a bad thing? That's an awesome thing. Where's Peter New? Get him in here. He needs this. Next question.
How do you draw Discord?
You don't.
Discord is
Next
based
question.
off of a snake, and so we start with this wonderful little action line, and you really have to work on its different parts, and it's difficult to figure out where they start and where they end, so references are very helpful for that.
In general, technically draw anything and then call it Discord?
Well, there you go. Do you have any tips on how to draw more dynamic posing?
More dynamic posing.
Action lines.
Action lines.
The Will
Basically,
Funkman special, okay?
You start with a line, and you're like, okay, my pony's going to follow that line, and you try to make your shapes go towards that line, or with that line, or along that line. Your general shapes work with that line. I mean, you don't have to be so specific that you're only going with the line. Let's put the wing over here. But it's a guide for you to move your general shapes, and it helps the pony look more dynamic with that.
Next question.
Apologies, but action lines do take a lot of time.
They are a very complicated thing.
Questions in the front now, I believe.
Where did Mike go?
He's talking to his other brother.
Oh,
Are you
more time
calling
for
it
action
microphone?
lines.
Microphone or is it because of names?
Or not, never mind. Sorry, no. Go again. I didn't hear it. What was the question? No, okay.
In the front.
The guy with the button face.
Fedora.
With the button face.
You.
All right, so I'm not a very good artist, and I'm trying to draw pony style, and I can't. Do you guys have any tips for vectoring?
No.
No, go away.
Well, yeah.
Vectoring, as it's called in the MLP fandom, sometimes it's tracing, sometimes it's not. It's its own thing a lot of the time, and its own style. It's very, very specific with the way it works. You got something?
Next.
No. Oh, me?
Next. I actually have mad respect for vector artists because that stuff looks just tedious.
Any tips on drawing eyes?
For eyes.
Eyes.
I'm surprised we didn't cover that. Really
One of the
sorry.
big things with eyes, okay.
Eyes are
We have
really
the head
fun.
circle. We have the direction the head is looking. For the eyes, we can draw a couple parallel lines to the tops and bottom of the eyes, and they're kind of a general area, but they help keep our eyes consistent, the far eye and the closed eye, because a lot of the time that far eye will start to look funky, and you're like, how did that turn out that way? Start with the far eye, work it first. and then you can match the near eye to it. It's a lot easier to correct the near eye than the far eye, because the far eye is so tiny and small. Again, draw large. The larger you draw, the easier it is for you to correct and to see your own mistakes.
We are down to 1 minute. Fast question. One fast question. Go. You pick someone random.
It's up to
Go, Mike.
Go, Mike. Go, 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 go.
Don't confuse them though.
The fate of the panel rests on your shoulders.
How many layers do you use approximately?
A million.
It varies piece to piece. If you have a question, make a new layer. If you're not sure, make a new layer. You can always merge layers, so make
My
layers.
sketches take upwards of 25.
Oh, start merging if you can do that.
Yeah, if you have too many layers, merge.
Make sure the sketch layer and the line work are 2 separate layers or you will hate
All right,
yourself
we are
later.
out of time. Thank you. Big round of applause for Mike Guy.
Thank you, thank you.
And thank you so much, everybody.
We did a lot of apologize. Thank you everyone for your questions. We will have a workshop sometime after this. What room?
Yes.
In the Gallatin Gallery.
Yeah.
If any of you want to just kind of draw along with us, we have a workshop coming up later. So yeah,
If
join
you want
us.
to show us
We
what
can
you
work with
did,
you
wait till we're
one-on-one.
outside.
We might be doing requested stuff. I don't know.
All right.